You're listening to the Mind Your Business podcast, episode number 1. Today, we're talking about what this podcast is all about, why we decided to start it, and how it can benefit you and your business. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and I've built a 7-figure internet business that offers the financial freedom to do what I want, when I want. And I'm the first to say that hard work and hustle are not essential ingredients for your success. So, how do you build a thriving business from the inside out? This is the Mind Your Business podcast, featuring myself and co-host Phoebe Mroczek. Welcome to the very first episode. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Phoebe Mroczek. She's sitting right beside me. Phoebe, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, James. How are you?
I am fantastic.
I'm excited. It's our first episode.
It's our first episode. We're really excited. I'm a little nervous. Okay. It's okay to admit I'm a little nervous. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. The idea, the seed of this podcast has been germinating now for over 2.5 years. And it's like finally time. And one reason why it took so time, otherwise one of them has just been busy with other projects and other exciting things. But the other is that I didn't really want to start this podcast until this is just some weird rule I had in my mind, in my brain, was until I reached a certain level of success in my own business. So I do find it a little silly. I'm not judging anybody that they start an entire business where their success is created from them teaching about success. And so I wanted to reach a certain level that made me feel, like a milestone for me in what I've done. So a quick recap of my journey is that for the past 7 years, I've been running a business that has primarily focused around teaching one of my biggest passions, which is video and film. So more specifically, online video. And last year, 2014, was the first year I hit 7 figures in my business. I actually tripled my revenue that year. We're on track to more than double it this year and hopefully continue to double it year after year. That's always something to be excited about. And we'll actually have an episode where I talk about what had to shift for that and how I got there. So yes, this is a podcast not about video marketing or how to make videos or anything like that. That's all reserved for YouTube. It would feel a little silly to be talking about videos on an audio podcast. But let's we're going to take a moment in this episode and talk about the intention behind this podcast and why I decided to create it, why I was inspired to create this, and why I specifically chose Phoebe to be my co-host with this. I'm going to be revealing some stuff that I've never shared with anybody before. So this is a big deal, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a little nervous. And we'll talk about some upcoming episodes and why we're just so excited about this. But it really some of what this really stems from is what people are preaching about online. People who are the thought leaders and are, every time you go on any type of social media site, what do you see? Like a quote image, right? Exactly. So there's a lot of all these things about the mentality and the encouragement of hard work and that sweat equity. And I think this is something I hear more and more. It's becoming more and more prevalent about the polarity of both sides of it. People saying how much hard work it takes. And then the other people that are, sitting there and beginning to question why we glorify all this hard work. We're here to take a stance against it. I don't want to use, that we're fighting it or anything, but let's take a look at this. So what I did before that we started this episode is did a search for people that have massive followings that are, considered successful entrepreneurs, and took a look at some of the quote images and the quotes that they share and things like, you've all heard these before. Things like take massive action. Nothing worth having comes easy. I want you to sit with that for a second. Sorry, kid, but nothing actually worth having in your life comes easy. What kind of life do you end up leading if you believe that at your core?
I'm pretty sure that was in our garage. We had a sign that said that actually.
Oh, great.
So that's actually what I grew up with.
Yeah. Hard work. This is real. You can just go to Google Images and just type in motivational quotes. And this is what you find. Hard work isn't an option. It's a necessity. Work harder than you think you did yesterday. Okay, but let's just take a look at that. Work harder than you think you did yesterday. How is that sustainable? How can you continue to work harder, push yourself more every single day? Where are you going to end up when you're just always striving to work harder? That becomes your goal, is just to work harder? Is that our goal? Is that what especially if we're, a lifestyle entrepreneur that wants to take advantage of the opportunities that are available to us on the internet? That just doesn't seem to jive with me. And that's really what we're here to talk about, which is what's on the other side of that. All roads that lead to success must pass through Hard Work Boulevard. Like, what? I'm sorry. And we kind of want to like mock these a little bit. So this is what stemmed for me, because as I'll share a little bit about my story, you'll get to discover what my beliefs are on this concept of hard work and success and what I believe it really takes based off my own personal experience and my students' experiences, and even working with Phoebe, which we'll get to that in a moment. But I want to say right now is this whole thing on hard work. I think people love hearing it. I think people see that quote image, they go, yeah, because why? It justifies what it is that they're already doing. When you don't know what to do, you can always fall back on working harder and working longer. It doesn't mean you're working smarter. It doesn't mean you're working on the right things at the right time in the right way. But at least I'm working hard, and it can allow you to sleep one more night. So I want to start by saying that I think that entrepreneurship, starting a business, or doing anything new that you've never done before is hard because we make it hard. And it really doesn't have to be as hard as it is, as hard as we make it. So like, we want to encourage you to, be a little easier with it. And that's really what a lot of this podcast is going to be about, how to actually do that. So let's look at it logically. Of course, it's going to be hard if you're doing something that you've never done before, like build a 7-figure business or a 6-figure business or make your first sale. How are you supposed to know how to do it? If you've never done something before, how are you supposed to know how to do it? One of my favorite quotes is, what got you here won't get you there. Because it really does take stepping into a whole new way of being, thinking, and behaving in order to get what you want. And it's that stepping into which can actually be really easy. But if you don't know where to step or what you're doing to become that, we make it hard. So there's like this fun riddle that I made up with one of my friends, which we toss these ideas back and forth, and it just says, how do you make $1 million? And a lot of people come up with all their plans and strategies, and the simple answer is you act like a millionaire. How do you make $1 million? Act like a millionaire. And the reason why that answer is so accurate and so simple is because if you've talked to, you hear all these people like from Donald Trump and all these successful people that said, if I lost all my money, if everything got taken away from me, it would be only a matter of time before I got right back to where I was or even higher. With that sense of conviction and absolute knowing that their success, repeated success is inevitable, really starts to get you to question like, well, what is it that they've got that I don't? And it's that they already have that knowing, that being, that behavior, and that mindset of what it takes because they've been there before. But if you've never been there before, how the heck are you supposed to know how to get there? Especially if the answer is make $1 million, you got to act like a millionaire. How the heck are you supposed to act, behave, and think like a millionaire if you got $5 to your name, right? Because if we sit there and we wrote out a list of like, what does a millionaire's day look like? A successful multi-million-dollar entrepreneur, what does their day look like? They're doing stuff that we couldn't do if we only had $5 to our name. So that's where like it actually does become a challenge. But we want to be able to soften that and make it easier. And that's why, like, if some of this stuff's already sounding like weird and what the heck are they talking about? What is this guy talking about? One of the reasons why I'm really excited / nervous to be creating this podcast is I'm kind of coming out of what I call the spiritual closet for the first time ever. So I've been teaching this business for 7 years about everything about things like YouTube and creating videos, how to make a video for your business, how to convert viewers into customers, and all kinds of cool stuff like that. And so it's been a lot of left brain stuff. Like what kind of cameras to use, the technology, and then how to do conversion rates and opt-ins and sales funnels and stuff like that. But for the first time, I'm sharing that it's actually behind the scenes. I've had this very spiritual side of me where daily I'm meditating. I visualize everything from my goals, the life I want to live, how I want my business to be. I visualize and manifest my customers that I attract into my business, the team I want to have. Actually, I worked under a 5th generation energy healer for 3 years and became a Reiki master, something that almost nobody knows about me. I use crystals daily. They're like all throughout my house, my office, they're on my desk. I practice things like the law of attraction, which I know some people have heard from like the movie and the book, The Secret. So I'm manifesting things. I've become massively, massively big on my intuition, using my intuition to make the majority of my decisions, if not all of my decisions in my personal life, professional life, business, etc. I even consult with psychics and readers like on a weekly basis. It sounds a little weird, and it's hard to share it. It's a little embarrassing, but the fact is, and I think this is really important to say this right here, right now, is that I'm a very left brain person by nature, which means the logical scientist. And I was a huge skeptic on this stuff. And we'll get into the story of the transformation for me and how I kind of opened myself up to this stuff. But for the longest time, I detested this stuff. And then I went from questioning it to testing it to saying, holy cow. I mean, the first book, my mother and my sister were really into this stuff, like The Secret Law of Attraction. They gave me a book several years ago. Well, for Christmas. It was like a Christmas gift. Like, James, we really think you'd like this book. It was Ask and It Is Given by Jerry and Esther Hicks. Yeah. And they talk about the law of attraction. I took the book. I read the first, I was like, oh, Ask and It's Given. What is it? What is this? And then talking about this channeled being called Abraham that talks about how you can just, manifest anything you want. I took it, I threw it in the trash, and I was like, this is garbage, And so that's where I started from. And a lot of this has been applied with my left brain scientific approach to maybe I should be a little bit more open-minded to some of the results that I've seen today. So I don't know. Does it sound a little kooky, Phoebe?
I mean, 6 months ago, to me, yes. And I think...
Has it only been 6 months?
Maybe actually, that's a lie. Maybe 8 months? No, 8 to 10 months ago. So I would say, yeah, probably closer, 9 or 10 months. But I'm very much like you. I'm very practical. And this stuff, when you first told me about it, just did not make any sense.
That's good.
And sounds a little bit crazy.
I weirded you out a little bit. So Phoebe started working with me, what's it been, like a year and a half?
Almost a year and a half ago.
A year and a half. And while she was working with me, she's also working on her stuff with her own business. So I don't remember how it started or anything, but I'm always, for people that I feel resonate with this, which I just felt that you did, I wanted to share some of this stuff. So I gave her some books and some audios. I'm like, just start listening to this and apply it. And I know you did a launch too where you were visualizing.
It was $10,000. That's I put it everywhere on my phone, and this was all because you had said, I think your first question was, do you know anything about manifesting, or have you ever heard of it, or something like that? And I was like, oh, law of attraction, The Secret or something. And that's how that conversation started. But I just started, really envisioning $10,000, and that was it. And I just knew I was going to hit it. And in my head, I was like, it's done. I just know. And I think I hit 10,250 or something.
That's awesome.
And it shouldn't have, there's nothing, no reason.
Wait, finish that thought. It shouldn't have happened.
It shouldn't have happened. There's just no reason that it should have happened. But every reason that it should have.
But I want to say something here, because this is, this first episode is kind of talking about the backstory behind this podcast and what our message really stems from. And the same can be said about all this woo-woo stuff, which is what most people call it. We can talk about hard work doesn't guarantee success. And that's pretty much what I'm starting out by saying, is that hard work is not this guarantor for success. And I think a lot of people, yes, it can acknowledge that. But I don't even think it's the largest ingredient to it at all. I think it's a very small piece of it. There's a lot of times, and we'll have plenty of examples to show, where a lot of what I'm doing today, some of my most successful stuff, is some of the easiest, light, and effortless things, like creating this podcast, Phoebe coming out, setting up all this equipment. We've never done a podcast before, and we're just the ideas of what we want to talk about are just flowing. And Phoebe's like, wow, this is really happening, and it's happening right now. And I'm like, well, when you're on track to do the things that you're meant to do, it should be easy, it should be light, and it should be effortless. So on one side, hard work doesn't guarantee success. And I also think that just writing down a number like $10,000 and visualizing that, closing your eyes, crossing your fingers, doesn't guarantee anything either. And so what we really want to come at you with is a message of how you blend the both of them. I think that's what this is all about, is it's a perfect dance and blend between the left brain, which is the logical science side, and the right brain, which is the creative, emotional side. It's a blend between the masculine and the feminine, the science and the magic. And that was another reason, that was a really important reason for me to make sure that Phoebe was my co-host for this podcast, so that we actually had that balance, the masculine and the feminine, someone who's been doing this for a while versus someone who's just being opened up to it and kind of being the voice of reason. Sometimes it gets a little crazy. We'll have some stuff like how I visualize what my next employee on my team looks like, and then just letting it happen, and crazy weird stuff like that, and all that interesting stuff.
James, I'm curious, when you talk about spirituality, we're talking about the balance of, the practical side and spirituality, and that's really what the goal of our podcast is. So, when you're talking about spirituality, what exactly specifically are you talking about?
I don't know. I think it's actually really hard to put a term and label on it, other than like people who already feel like they are spiritual kind of like nod their head and say, yeah, I know what you're talking about. So I don't even want it to have a very specific term. I think there's just a few things I want to clarify. That, like, number one, it doesn't in any sense replace religion. I think that's really important. It's just kind of, well, really, I think at one place it's about having an understanding and an application of what people call universal laws. And one of those of which is the law of attraction, and understanding, like, you can even be backed by science. You know, again, I'm still very skeptical. I still use the stuff that I'm even skeptical about, but things like quantum mechanics and stuff like that, which, you know, talk about energy and that everything is vibration, and how to change our frequency and how to use our thoughts to create things. And I just love that from the time I've been using this, I just feel like it's become so much more prevalent. That's so many more people are talking about, like, you know, thoughts do create things, and we want to show you how to do that and how you already are doing that, which is the funny thing. How do I do that? Well, what do you mean? That's like, you know, I want to learn how to use gravity. And it's like, you are. Yeah. So that's, I mean, again, I don't want to put it in any type of container or box, but there is about an understanding and application of universal laws, like the law of attraction and stuff like that. And just kind of having more of a, like, you know what, like, even if it's just managing your emotions, understanding what your emotions are, putting a little magic in your business is really how I would define all that stuff, and not limit it in any way, and say that it's whatever you want it to be and it's whatever you don't want it to be.
Right. And so when you're talking about, you know, making it work for your, like, how it's impacted your business, you know, what are there specific things that you can say, you know, that this has really impacted your business?
Yeah. So today it's so hard because we could just, I mean, it's like everything. I mean, it really is everything, but there are certain moments in time when you go, oh, wow, like that was because of this. And so the first few years of running my business were filled with me. It was very left brain, very masculine. So everything was filled with frustration, anger, total impatience. Like, I was the most impatient person, and a lot of stress. And stress is the entrepreneur's word for fear. Entrepreneurs don't get afraid, or they don't admit that they're afraid, because there's that whole thing of like fear of failure, and like, oh, I don't have a fear of failure. I love failure. Bring it on. Instead, they just get stressed, which is just another form of fear. Because why are you stressed? You're stressed because you're worried it's not going to work out. Right. So I had a lot of that going on. A lot. Like, I remember nights like punching walls and breaking keyboards. And like, I can even see your face like, wait, what? That's you? Like, that is not who I am in the slightest today. So it was really about an energy of jamming the square peg through the round hole. Like, I have everything. I know everything I need to know. I've got all the information, and I've got the time, and I'm working hard. Why isn't it working? And then there really was, like, when I got introduced to a lot of this spiritual stuff and energy stuff and started doing Reiki and working with a spiritual healer, it was this like opening and releasing of that, where I was like a whole different person. Like, it was a total transformation of being a person of confidence and ease and trust and using intuition and divine timings, all stuff that we're going to talk about, as weird as it might sound for you, because it should sound a little weird for most people, but for me, it's not anymore. I love it. I love that it is weird.
Well, I think what you're talking about, you know, a lot of people can hopefully relate to, because I know I certainly can, when it comes to like the square peg and the round hole. Like, that's how business is supposed to run, is this specific way. And I think that what we're trying to bring across to people is just that it doesn't have to be that way, that it can be a square peg and a square hole, you know, that it can be easy. It doesn't have to be difficult. And all of this, I like the stress, you know, that to me is really important for people to get across.
Can I share a specific example, which for me was, this story was like the first time I said, oh crap, I get it. Like, I get it. So I had been doing a little bit of this Reiki training, which, you know, you guys can Google what Reiki is. It's like a hands-on energy healing practice. You know, I was still going into that going like, what the heck am I doing? I'm just like standing there putting my hands on something like, what is this? You know, and I saw a lot of incredible things happen. I was like blown away, whether it's a placebo effect, even the placebo effect is demonstrating the power of the mind over matter. You know, taking a sugar pill that doesn't have anything in it and saying it's going to remove your headache, and it does.
It does, yeah.
Because you believed it? Like, what? How do you explain that? You know? And, you know, there's also studies that say that the placebo effect has gotten bigger in studies over years, like, which means, the mind is becoming more powerful. I don't know. Crazy stuff. We're going down the rabbit hole already. But let me share this example. So this is about 2009. I was struggling in my business, and more than anything, I wanted to go to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. And I wanted to go with my girlfriend at the time. And tickets were $1,000. I checked my bank account. I had $500 to my name. I called them up and I said, I want to go. Can I do payments? And the woman literally laughed at me. No, I don't think so. So I said, okay, well, let me just check my finances and I'll call you guys back. In the time from when I called to check my bank account again, I had some sort of debit. I think it was like a Google AdWords thing come in. It took $500 out of my bank account. I had less than $1 in my bank account.
Oh, I thought you were going to go the other way with that and say it was all deposited.
No. I mean, and it was just such a blow because like a big thing for me that I had to overcome mentally was just like being so destitute, broke that you're just like going to have to be homeless. And like, is this going to be my rest of my life? And the reason I wanted to go to Tony Robbins was it was my girlfriend's birthday. And so that was like something that I was like, okay, this isn't about me. Like I wanted to go because she wanted to go, but this was for her. And so I remember I got that initial blow. It was just a punch in the gut. And then I was like, I kind of let that sit for a while. And I was like, I made a decision. I just, in that moment, I said, we're going to be there. And the first magic that happened is I said, I don't know how, but I know we're going to be there. And I let go of an attachment of how it was going to look like. How it didn't mean I needed to make, see, up in my mind at that time, I was so logical that I was like, oh, I have to make $1,000 in order to attend a $1,000 event. And I just said, we're going to be there. And the reason I was able to get so much of that like momentum behind it and conviction was because it wasn't about me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people talk about how like, especially if they start like a nonprofit or do something charitable, like things happen so much quicker and easier when it's for someone else. And it is hard to like ask for all this stuff for ourselves. And that comes down to like self-worth issues, which another episode. But when the moment it was for somebody else that I cared about, I mean, holy cow. So the next day I get a text and it's a friend I haven't seen for a long time and she wants to play tennis. And I was like, oh, I'm really busy right now and I'm kind of having a breakdown that I don't have any money, but okay, I'll go play tennis. That's the smartest thing I should be doing right now. We're playing tennis. We're swinging back and forth. Can't see my hand right now, but I'm, practicing my backhand. I'm motioning. And we're in the middle playing and she goes, so what are you working on right now? And I told her what I was. I was like, at the time, I was like, well, I'm making video sales letters for clients. And she goes, I want one. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, this is not a joke. I'm not making this up. As soon as she said, I want one, she said, I've got 2 tickets to Tony Robbins.
What?
I'll trade you. And I freaking dropped my paddle and almost like fell to the floor. Like, it was just like, what? Like, I freaked out. I was like, what did you say? And sure enough, I made her this video. So I exchanged a service. She knew a rep at Tony Robbins who gets her free tickets, and she gave me 2 tickets, and we went to that event.
Crazy.
And like, we can listen. I play mind games with myself all the time. Like, we can justify that logically in any single way, but like at the end of the day, when I sit there and say like, wow, at one level, I trusted in the universe, and I just kind of threw it up there, created a sense of balanced a dance between conviction, expectation, and knowing that it was going to happen, and a detachment of what it would look like. Mm-hmm. And it showed up. And that was the first time I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this.
Not yet, but maybe.
Maybe. Let me try this a few more times. So there you go.
That's amazing.
So not only do we have plenty of stories like this coming up in future episodes, but we really want to show how to apply this, like what some of this weird, crazy stuff is that we're talking about and how to apply it. So this podcast, again, the goal for this podcast is to share the application of a practice blend of, what we could label as spirituality or manifesting or magic with, I'm not forgetting the left side of business, the left brain side, which is the effective business principles and strategies. Okay, because it's not about one or the other. I really do think that it is a dance between the both. So there's a great quote that anyone who has any type of spiritual teaching or background really loves. I don't know who it is that actually said this, but it's, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And everyone who's very spiritual loves that and goes, oh, that's really nice. And one thing I want to remind you, even though I agree with this and I love this quote, is I want to remind you that even though we're spiritual beings, we're still living in a mechanical world. And that was another quote that I found, which I absolutely love. So what this is really about is about blending the two, the right brain and the left brain, the masculine and the feminine, the science with this magic, and how we apply both. Just because I've learned things like visualizing, manifesting, and I meditate 2 to 3 times a day doesn't mean I don't know how to write effective copy, how to sell, how to drive traffic, how to build a web page or anything like that, or a squeeze page or something like that. Okay, so we've got some really exciting episodes for you guys in store. Some of the topics that we're going to talk about, things like your relationship with money. Oh, that's a big one. How to manifest your goals and how to use visualization exercises. How to use the law of attraction in business. What is this thing called the law of attraction? Is it just this, hypey fake thing that's for get rich quick people? Or is there something really to this and how we can apply it to business? We'll talk about what your emotions are and how to manage them and how your emotions are actually like your best friend and how you can use them to help you grow your business. Improving your self-worth and value. I think that's a big one.
I'm excited about that one.
Yeah. And then something I'm excited about all these, but how to use intuition in your business. What is intuition? How to discern intuition from the ego mind and all that stuff, and it can help you be your best consultant in your business. So all that and more coming up on future episodes of the Mind Your Business podcast. I'm James Wedmore.
I'm Phoebe Mroczek.
And we'll see you next time. Are you frustrated that no matter how hard you hustle, no matter how much you get done in a day, you still feel like you have little results to show for it? Do you feel like you're doing everything right, but there's still something missing? Well, what if there was an easier way? What if your business could be fun, effortless, and profitable? Phoebe and I have put together a free audio MP3 for you, compiling the 77 business affirmations for creating success from the inside out. And we want to give it to you absolutely free. This is your chance to rewire your brain for bigger results in your life and your business. To get instant access absolutely free, simply visit 77affirmations.com. That's the number 77affirmations.com.